Welcome back to The Line. New Mexico could join a group of states that want to abolish the Electoral College. As we record this discussion, Governor Michelle Lujan Grisham has a bill on her desk that would assign New Mexico's electors to the winner of the national popular vote. Now, states representing 172 electoral votes have passed similar laws. The plan goes into effect only if enough states pass laws to constitute a majority of the Electoral College. And Sophie, obvious first question, is the Electoral College just something of the past that we should just walk away from at this point? Or is it just not, is it the emotion of it just so high that we're not seeing it clearly?
So, I mean, I think the Electoral College, sort of like the Senate, they are relics of a time when there was concern that the population as a whole could not be trusted to govern itself.
Right.
And so, on some level, they are anti-democratic. You know,
Good way to put it.
they distance us from our own decisions. I think part of the pressure now, though, realistically, is that we've had two presidents who've been elected without the popular vote, and they were both Republicans. And so we certainly do see a political divide between the folks who want it and the folks who don't.
Right.
I think the other big divide is the big state, small state divide, and you certainly see in conversations about this topic here in New Mexico, concerns that New Mexico will lose electoral power.
Right.
And then, you know, we have to balance that against, like, does the New Mexico voter deserve to have more say than voters in other states? As an individual, are you really entitled to that?
Merritt, you see that a lot, read that a lot, that the country's going to be, you know, California and the East Coast and Texas is going to decide presidential elections from now on. Is that a fair way to put this?
Even with the Electoral College, and we have 5 electoral votes.
Right.
No one
comes to visit us, right?
Yeah, right. And to me, this is really less a view of whether the Electoral College is a relic, are we a democracy or a republic? It's none of that. It's Democrats really mad that Trump won. He used data like it never been before. He went to the states that he did the math, he did the data, he gamed the system, he won, and Democrats are mad. And to me, this is a pretty hollow gesture that's simply. It does certainly reduce our voting power, whether it's fair or not. It will diminish our voting power.
Okay.
And
in what sense? I want to make sure I'm clear on
well,
what you mean by that.
because our vote does count more than a Californian's right now because of because we have 5 electors. I think it odd when we're so disadvantaged in so many ways in this country that we would actually take one of the few advantages we have and get rid of it.
Right. How, you know, this has been a thing out there. There's been a group here in New Mexico, certainly, that's been pushing this for a little bit too. Is it all about emotion, Senator, or is there something more involved here? Do we feel like we're not getting our fair say in presidential politics with the system we have now?
We're overrepresented now, as Merritt said. We're overrepresented, and that's as a result of the Electoral College. And what I see is a very antiquated system. Now, there are more than Republicans that were elected without a majority. I went back and looked. John Quincy Adams, for example, Rutherford B. Hayes, Benjamin Harrison, all 3 of them were elected without a majority vote. I think it's very important now, when there are so many divisions in the country, that a president be elected with the majority vote so that he or she can go ahead and create policy with more credibility. And you know, I just think it's a question. Do you value democracy? Do you value every vote counting equally, and majority rule, or are you just provincial and want your state to have a disproportionate share of power? And yes, we've been down a long time. So maybe we deserve a little disproportionate power every once in a while. But I would opt for democracy.
Interesting last point there. Your sense of this, I mean, what happens, let's kind of flip this around a little bit. What happens if we go to this scheme, we get enough to flip this over in the country, go to the popular vote, but then unpopular people are still elected? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
what have we gained here?
It still happen.
Potential. I mean, you know, chaos will reign. Is the bottom line is what will happen. But you know, the bill, I think, is therapeutic.
Okay.
I think that it is just something that, and I would say democracy is what put the Electoral College into place.
No.
And it's why would we want to give away our birthright as far as with our electoral votes? Is it broken? Does it need to be tweaked? Sure, but is giving our votes to whoever the popular person is the right way to do that? All this does is it supports a broken two-party system. There are Democrats and there are Republicans, and there are people in the middle who hate both of them. Okay, as far as the
middle.
structure, exactly, the growing middle, and all this kind of movement does is it supports a broken two-party system.
Right.
And for that reason alone, I'm not in favor of it.
Sophie, it's obviously one of the downsides could potentially be the widening of the gap of rural versus urban. Again, we talked about California, Texas, New York, all that kind of thing. But you can just see it and feel it in the comments on web pages and Facebook pages. Folks who are not for this are really not for this and feel like they're really sort of being pushed aside here. Is there a danger here if we go to this?
Well, democracy is dangerous. That's just
There you go.
part of the big experiment.
Right.
I think if we based our policy entirely on the comments on the internet, first of all, and we already have evidence that the folks who are making those comments may not, in fact, be citizens of the United States.
Yeah.
Or even vote.
But I'm like,
for all we
I
know.
can't imagine us living in that sort of way, that sort of Thunderdome kind of way of handling things. We need to make good policy, and it needs to be consistent with both the values of our country and the common good of our people. And it seems to me here the values are certainly in question. I do want to address one thing that Tom mentioned, though, which is that the citizens of the United States did not, in fact, vote for our Constitution and for our structure of government. At the time, first of all, very few of us would have been considered citizens.
Yeah.
And and also our government was put together by a group of fairly privileged white dudes who, sorry, got to say it, who were careful to make sure that there would not be too much popular input. And our government perhaps isn't better for that.
I mean, this is only, as Senator mentioned, it's only happened 5 times in our history. Does that not prove the point that the system is working? That it's not as big a problem as we're all talking about here in 2019?
I think that's a good question, and I'm not sure that I have a great answer for it.
Yeah.
It does feel that there's some acceleration since the days of Adams and Hayes, and so I guess it remains to be seen how quickly this sort of movement moves, if we're going to see more of that.
I just wish our legislature would focus on something else, like passing the budget, like passing ethics. This, to me, is a distraction.
Right.
Our input to this, it's set up like the Electoral College, so as states adopt it, their electoral votes go there. So we'll take it from 181 to 185, or 186, possibly. It's, to me, a distraction and further polarizes our voters in an area where they don't really need to be focused. Let's all work together, pass this darn budget because we have so much money, and see if we can adjudicate dollars and run our state better.
Right. I hear priorities, as they say. Exactly.
Yeah, and sorry, Sophie.
No,
I don't think you can, say, well, the white guys, really screwed us here, but they didn't screw us here. You can't really piece apart
It's pretty
the Declaration of
historically
Independence
known
or the Bill of Rights.
that there were attempts there to keep the popular voice
And I don't
from
know.
being heard.
I don't know the whole background, but what I do know is that the founding fathers established the Declaration of Independence. They also did the Bill of Rights, and both of those seem to be pretty good documents.
Yeah, but they also, as a part of a big compromise,
Right.
did the Electoral College
there's a
and
process
the
to
Senate,
amend
which
the Bill
both
of Rights.
which
There's a way to
overrepresent
adjust the
rural
Constitution.
areas.
And doing a popular vote is not what that process is.
Well, this is a way around the Electoral College, and it's not a popular vote. So, I think that we're stuck with this compromise from our forefathers. We didn't vote for it. We wouldn't be given the right to vote for it. And the history of our country is increasing the rights of the majority of the folks, whether they be black, whether they be immigrants, whether they be women. And I see this as a further direction here.
That's all the time we have for this week. What a great show. We're always planning the next show, though. Give us your ideas for future coverage by connecting with our Facebook group called Focus on New Mexico, or drop us a note on YouTube or find us on Twitter.